that music.
He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Attention, citizens of fair Gotham, and welcome once again to Bat Minute and Robin, the show that can teach you more than Oxford or Cambridge ever could. Losers. You don't want to be going to there. You want to be coming to our educational facilities, which are all audio-based, so it's easy. You can do it on the train. I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
And I would say who I am, but secrets are a virtual prerequisite on this podcast, so my identity will have to remain safely anonymous.
I was going to say that if you didn't say it. I was really waiting for that.
No, it's me, Niall, the guy who's here all the time.
That loser. And this week, we are joined by a new guest. Yes, sometimes we mix it up. We get new people in, fresh blood for an exciting fresh take on the Batman franchise. An interesting new take. Today, we are joined by the BrittGirl herself, Brittany Howarth.
G'day, guys. Thought I'd throw in an Aussie greeting there.
Hey, this is fast becoming a part Australian podcast now, isn't it?
Yeah.
How many Australians have we on the show?
I think like one of our most like frequent guests is from Australia, and then we had like at least like 5 others, I think.
So basically what we're saying is we want the numbers in Australia to increase because the downloads are not changing.
So I understand it's quite a small country, so like we must have got most of the population by now. Australia's only like, what, 100 people there? Or
yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's tiny.
Yeah, we're all only 100 people. We all ride kangaroos to school and to work. We hop on the couch, nice and cozy.
Sounds like a dream, though. It's like, if only I could get over there.
I actually think
it's slimy, but it's not bad.
It's part of Australian culture that you get called up to Bat Minute now. Like you have to. It's a bit like other countries have. You have to join the army. In Australia, it is you go on Bat Minute for a week.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough.
Yeah. Although you come in, especially for this week, Brittany, because you obviously have a new guest to talk about a new face to like these minutes. We're getting like, the first full week of Batgirl. Almost going to say Barbara Gordon there, but not quite. Not
quite. And what do you mean, Batgirl? This is a schoolgirl.
Oh yeah, yes. So this perfectly innocuous person who will no longer appear in the films after this week.
Yeah, it was a bit of an odd addition there, and how much they strayed from the comic books. But there was a few points where they did pick up, a little bit of Barbara Gordon's computer savvy, and they brought that to the movie. So. They deviated, but there's little Easter eggs for Batgirl fans.
Oh, for sure.
They had a very interesting take on it in the draft scripts and things, which we will get to. But this minute today is minute 31, and it starts with a family reunion and ends with a gasp. Oh my God! We are back as the mystery woman reveals that she is not there to bang Dick, but that was not meant to be a double entendre. But I couldn't have written that if I'd tried. But is instead here for Alfred, not to bang Alfred. He's her uncle.
Yeah, one thing in particular she says, and I guess this, again, for our purposes, this is like a historical moment because, way back at the end of Batman Forever, there was the unsung moment where, like, the Riddler's like, Bruce's love or the Dark Knight's junior partner. And I was like, that's the first time Batman's been called the Dark Knight in a movie. Like, that line was the first time it ever happened. This is the first time Alfred's ever referred to as Alfred Pennyworth in the movies. There's always just been Alfred.
Yeah.
So it's like the Alicia Silverstone here getting the give the movie-going audience an insight into what the dude's last name has been after 4 damn movies now.
Yeah, I think as a kid I was baffled.
I was just going to think, being a billionaire, Bruce probably didn't even bother to learn the poor guy's last name.
That's the thing when later on when Dick is just like, mouthing to Bruce like uncle. Like I imagine he'd be more like Pennyworth. Like, that his name?
I thought you were called Wayne.
He's like writing on the palm of his hand, like, apparently, how do you spell that?
Bruce is just like, I guess so. It's like,
I like Dick's reaction as well, because you would think he'd be crushed, because he is hitting on this girl hard instantly. And as soon as she's not interested in him, he doesn't seem to care. He's so smitten with her that when she runs away from him to her uncle, he's still like, God damn.
you are getting his gaze at her as she's running, like an amazement, is like, this guy has not seen the female form in like 7 or 8 months or something. Like, it's been me, friggin' Clooney, and a crusty old guy. Like, I'm dying.
I mean,
up
it
here.
could have been anyone out the door, and he would have been like, "Ooh, legs."
Yeah.
I appreciate how they set up that shot. You know, the male gaze. You know, she has to stand up on the side, reaching around, trying to find a spare key, and it's like always setting up the perfect shot for him to pan up the legs.
Yeah, shameless. Just like Joel Schumacher has a running thing where he's like, I don't see the problem with objectifying anybody. And he says, like, I get in attractive actors, I get in attractive actresses, and I want them to look their best. So he's probably like, well, what's the problem with that?
Yeah.
But
The equality with the suit ups was brilliant. I mean, equal butt shots for men and women. You know.
oh, of course,
Good
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to objectify people, you might as well objectify everybody.
Yeah.
One thing that occurred to me, though, like, we're saying, like, last minute, it's like, that's a bit ridiculous that she thinks there might be a key to friggin' Wayne Manor just hidden above the door. But there's also, too, it's like, it's probably Alfred has to put that damn key up there. They're getting this old guy to be like, ugh.
He's got a little step ladder. It just makes you think of Father Ted, which is probably going to mean nothing to 99% of our listeners. You know, when Mrs. Doyle's cleaning
Cleaning the windows.
the window, and she falls over. Yeah.
It's like Alfred having to get on like a little harness and like haul himself up to leave a spare key in the top of the door.
Also, like, I think Dick, I know he is meant to be a young man, but the way we talked about this last week, the way he's looking at her, it's gone beyond creepy to me. It's like rein it in.
He has not been chill
No.
in any fashion with this. Like, he is making his intentions scarily like apparent. And as the minutes go on, it's just like, dude, her uncle's right there. What are you doing?
I love the different perspective we got from this, and it might be because Nightwing is hella attractive in this movie. But I was like, it's puppy love. I just felt like that's what his gaze was. Obviously, I mean, over the top, but it's gotta be. It's that kind of genre.
Like, one of the things we kept hitting up against it, you know, with Batman Forever is that, like, you know, the character written to be essentially a child, like, in many ways. So puppy love would be very apparent to me if they had, like, you know, like a 13-year or 14-year-old
Yeah.
there. But now it's like, well, this guy's what, 28 or something. So it's like people have been married and divorced at this guy's age.
It is weird. I mean, the one thing I'll give him, though, it does come across, at least it comes across kind of non-threatening. It's weird, but at least it's not lustful. It's more kind of cute.
I should ask, though, because, you know, Brittany, your online persona is BrittGirl, which is, you know, in reference to Batgirl, as it were. And people watch your videos, they might have spotted that you seem to have a couple of Batgirl things around. Like, is there a reason that you're drawn to this character in particular, or like, what is it about the Batgirl that speaks to you?
Well, it's actually funny. People don't tend to actually pick up the whole Batgirl, BrittGirl. It's more they think I'm British. They don't, because my accent's a bit odd. Like, sometimes it can go full blown Aussie, and then sometimes I can be sounding American or British. It's just a mixed bag. But when it comes to Batgirl, I think we share a bit of the hair color. We share a bit of that. And one thing that's interesting about the Barbara Gordon's character is that she is probably one of the few that didn't go through what I call like a crime alley instigation or a Krypton. So you've got Dick, whose parents died. You've got Jason, who was on the wrong side of the tracks in an abusive household. Tim's probably the exception there. But you can go through a few of the Robins and see that they've come from quite horrible situations. But Barbara Gordon's in a position where she can help and she wants to help, and she does. No matter what she does, she tries to help. So inspiration, you know, all the good stuff.
Hell yeah.
It is like, yeah, not everyone has to be born of trauma. You can do things out of the goodness of your heart. Just be just because it's the right thing to do rather than I've been traumatized.
And look, I say this, but then the Killing Joke comes along and just slaps that theory out of me. But yeah.
Well, let's roll with this Barbara, this version. She, she mostly just does things to be nice, really.
Yeah. Of course, we got at one point when she runs into Alfred here. One of the biggest things, obviously, we'll have to address, like right off the bat, is rather than being Barbara Gordon, this is Barbara Wilson, Alfred's niece. And we'll get to have to put an asterisk next to that because we'll come back to it in a minute. And even when Dick mouths to Bruce like uncle, it's almost as if like that's a little meta nod to the audience who will be sitting going, I thought she was Commissioner Gordon's daughter. Like, uncle? Is Alfred related to Commissioner Gordon? It's like, that'd be something. But tragically, that is not the case. They decided to change it up because they wanted it. Actually, speaking of family trauma and stuff, they were talking about like trying to create. Well, one of the reasons Joel Schumacher brings up that she was brought in was because he was getting fan mail and stuff from people asking where Batgirl was. And he's like, oh, apparently this is a really, really popular character. Also, then you had Warner Brothers going like, we could be selling this movie to women more, if we had a female character in it. So it's a bit of corporate synergy.
See that?
Yeah.
Sell this to women. Let's put female villain, female hero. Yes, done.
I think in many ways it was like, we don't want to have a guy punching Poison Ivy in the face. Like the optics aren't great. So
well, especially because Ivy was getting. Not to the same degree as Catwoman, but she was getting abused by a man. So you don't then want the hero to come and punch her in the face because it's like, well, what's that saying? You're kind of on her side.
Yeah.
I was thinking like a lot of the design when they were looking at, when I was watching it, Ivy copies a lot from Catwoman. They saw what worked with Catwoman with the whip. So they decided, let's do that again with Ivy and put it in the Vine. But funnily enough, this movie passes, I think it's called the Bechdel test.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, it's all talk about feminism and it's like, read a book, it's the 21st century. But, it passes, it does the job.
Well, actually, in previous seasons, we've had a lot of women came on the show loving Catwoman, which I thought that version of Catwoman, you might argue on the surface, that's for men. But no. The biggest fans who came on the show were all women. So it's interesting that they've got Ivy again because, women really liked that Catwoman character. We need to appeal, but then we need something on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Actually, during Ivy's origin scene, we did a whole this is very just echoing Selena Kyle destroying her apartment and stuff. The biggest thing didn't bring up that week was of course, she kills Jason Woodrue with a poisoned kiss. And, him being her abuser and whatnot, the guy who quote unquote killed her. And of course, friggin' Selena Kyle killed Max Schreck with a kiss as well. So we didn't mention that at the time. So it's almost as if they condensed Catwoman's whole story down into one scene. and that bit, it's like, just get it over with it within literally 2 minutes.
It's interesting comparison between the two as well, though, because Catwoman, again, loved by so many women, like you were saying, and I think it might be because she owned her sexuality a bit. And it didn't feel quite as authentic or the same with Poison Ivy. It really felt like the whole movie was Power Rangers with a bigger budget.
That's a very good comparison, actually. There is a Power Rangers vibe. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger in this movie, Mr. Freeze, could be in the Power Rangers.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, he would fit perfectly.
Yeah. Wouldn't he be great? He's got a bit of a vibe of, if you remember, Goldar.
I think if they reboot the friggin' Power Rangers again, just get him in. He ain't dead. Yeah. He's still cracking.
Yeah, he still looks pretty
good. I think
good.
he'll be a long time around.
But another thing was the reason for bringing Alfred in this fashion. There's a thing online. I've seen someone wrote that they didn't think that Pat Hingle could handle the emotional scenes with Becca. I was like, that's really harsh. I don't think that's true. There was no verification. There was no quotes or anything. It was just someone just wrote that in one of the wikis. And I was like, I think you're just pulling that out of the air. But a lot of it was because they wanted to have this element of, Bruce has gotten over, he's lost his parents, but he's kind of somewhat gotten over it now by the time this film rolls around. Dick obviously has lost his parents as well, and they've created a family unit with Alfred, and then for Alfred to be dying and for Barbara to come in like an actual relative to him. It's sort of tying all the characters together to make them more of a solidified family. Bruce says, I think at the end of next minute, it's like, oh, after all, Alfred, she's family, which is like a little nod to the Bat family, which was came in the comics and more prominently in like the 60s and 70s. I think it was basically because they just wanted emotionally to tie them all to one person, and so they made it Alfred. Of course, there was an animated episode where Bruce and Barbara Gordon, I think it was the episode I Am the Knight, which I talked about recently on the Listener's Cave, because the villain in it is blatantly based on Jack Palance, like exceptionally so. Just talks like him, looks like him. It's crazy.
Oh, people know we love Jack.
Oh yeah, but he within that episode, Jim Gordon gets shot, and it's kind of about like Batman losing his father figure, and then that's kind of ties into Barbara Gordon a little bit. It's like you could have done something like that, although that episode's very, very dark and noirish and stuff, not very in the tone of this. But also, it is kind of like, yeah, well, Alfred is there too, Bruce. It's like Jim Gordon getting shot. I'm sure you're devastated, but
you gotta have a look at who Jim Gordon, the kind of character they're portraying there. He's a bit of the comedy relief, a bit of like a loaf really in the story.
Yeah.
I can't really remember the episodes quite well from the 60s Batman, but I would imagine him closer to that sort of kind of goofy, not that great at their job. But then you look at the Jim Gordon from the Batman Begins, the Christopher Nolan, like those series, and it's like a complete change. So I guess when they wanted to bring Barbara Wilson in, they wanted to bring someone a bit more sincere and a bit more, I guess, how would you get the daughter of quite aloof and silly character and have some sympathy there? It would be quite difficult.
Oh God, yeah, I can't even imagine that. What? Oh Jesus!
Over the seasons, though, we have mentioned that like a lot of Pat Hingle's material was cut. So apparently, in '89, there was supposed to be a scene where younger Jim Gordon comforts, young Bruce Wayne after his parents are murdered and stuff. It's actually what they did do in Batman Begins. And I always wonder if they had kept that stuff in. And like Pat Hingle keeps talking, every time he's interviewed for the movies, it's like, oh yeah, they gave me more material to do with. And it's like, just barely anything, man. You just wonder if they kept like slicing him down till he was just virtually nothing. So if they had kept all that stuff in, would we have gotten? Maybe they would have been like, oh, give it to Pat to do. But
I don't know.
We pushed for the Snyder cut. Why don't we push for the the extended cut of Batman and Robin and get those scenes out?
Yes, there's people out there pushing for the extended cut of Batman Forever because there are loads of extra scenes and things, and they want an official release. But what about Batman and Robin, people? There's got to be some more content.
Yeah. Release the Hingle cut.
Release the Hingle cut. Get that hashtag trending.
Although, should say though, in this business though, well, in many ways, like what this minute in particular is kind of vaguely comics accurate to a Batgirl, in that Barbara Gordon was not the first Batgirl. Prior to her, you had Betty Kane, who was Bat-Girl. Like Spider.
I was wondering
hyphen.
if you're going to remember the hyphen. I was sitting there thinking, oh, will I jump in and say hyphen? Nope, you've got it. You've got it. I don't need to do anything.
That's
it's like people will get fussy with Spider-Man. Where like it has a hyphen.
Well, if it doesn't have a hyphen, it's surely Spider-Man.
Yeah. So I guess Barbara Gordon is Batgirl. So it's just Barbara Batgirl. Whereas Batgirl was Betty Kane.
But Batman doesn't have a hyphen.
That's true.
Batman.
Yeah,
he's Bruce Batman.
But Betty Kane was, she was brought in way back in Batman 139 in April of 1961. And she was the niece of, at that point, Batwoman, Kathy Kane. And as we mentioned a couple of weeks back, there was a little thing during sort of what they refer to as the Lavender Scare of comics, where people were basically like, this Batman and Robin relationship seems a trifle gay. Yeah, it seems like there might be a little subtext on here. And so they introduced at that point a love interest for Batman through Batwoman. And then basically the original Batgirl was like a female Robin.
I've got to jump in here because it's so hilarious and I love this because that's the origin, absolutely. And then what happens in modern comic books? Batwoman is gay.
Yeah.
So it just kind of flipped the origin on its head.
It's properly like sticking it to them. It's just like, all right, we're gonna make it a gay, like the most openly gay character imaginable.
It's like, done. Deal with that.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, because she is Betty Kane is the niece to Kathy Kane, and they're like one of those annoying things. I have an edition of Batgirl Year One because like, oh, we reprint the first Batgirl issue. But that storyline's all about Barbara Gordon, and then you get to it, it's like, here's the first Betty Kane story. It's like, there's Barbara Gordon had her first issue as well, you know, so it's a bit of a weird one to have it reprinted on the back. But within that story, her arriving is literally her showing up with a suitcase at Kathy Kane's front door, being like, hey, I'm coming for a visit. So it's kind of like they're like, yeah, this is how you introduce a blonde Batgirl, at least, because obviously Betty Kane was blonde. Alicia Silverstone is blonde. Barbara Gordon classically got red hair.
They're doing a similar kind of like hair switcheroo. Sorry to jump in, but with the Batwoman series, they wanted to cast someone for Barbara Gordon, but they couldn't get I don't think they could get the license for the name. So now they have someone who matches the look of Barbara Gordon, but they have to call her Stephanie Brown. So it's almost like we have a switcheroo happening here across the media.
Are you in any way outraged, though, by seeing a blonde in place here? Or are you just like, all right, well, I'll take any version of Batgirl I can get in this goddamn franchise?
just give me Batgirl.
Any Batgirl.
Anything. I'm not outraged. I think it's this whole thing that unfortunately as nerds can dig ourselves a bit of a hole in, where it's like it has to be absolutely accurate and to the point, and creative license can really give us some amazing stuff. So being able to not put that pressure on creativity, allow them to design things that, although I might not like, someone out there is going to froth over it. They're going to absolutely love it. So it's absolutely selfish to just say, no, this person has to look exactly like this, when you're stopping some amazing stories that could be had.
Yeah, it's the wrong thing to focus on. Obviously, it's nice if you can get the look exactly the same, but don't stress over it. Worry about other things when you're making a movie. Get the nice, adorable family hug here. And Dick and Bruce look on. And I've only just noticed, he must have had it last week. Bruce is in that turtleneck again, that sweet, sweet turtleneck. It's back. I should have worn mine for the occasion. It's sitting over across the room.
I wonder if they just have on the studio a lot one black turtleneck that's the same turtleneck that Michael Keaton wore. It's the same one Val Kilmer. That's why it looks like huge on Clooney. It's just like, well, Val Kilmer's a much stockier guy. So he stretched it out.
He doesn't mind. It's like, I get to don the famous turtleneck. It's an honor. All
I can think of is Steve Jobs and The Rock. So I guess
The Rock,
George Clooney falls somewhere in the middle there.
I could totally have seen Michael Keaton as Batman wearing that Rock outfit.
I would think the little the bum
gold
bag.
chain.
Yeah. I could picture him wearing that on the steps of Wayne Manor.
Hey, he's back for the Flash.
Yeah.
It's like right to Andy Muschietti. Like, for the love of God, just do it for me. Put a bum bag on Bruce Wayne.
Why not?
You know what? It would have been better. Bane wearing all that.
Yeah. Oh, no, Bane should be wearing, right? They're these workout pants that all wrestlers used to wear in the sort of late 80s, early 90s called Zubas.
Mm.
Are you like Hammer Time pants? Or
they are a bit like
goes...
them. I don't care if we do this on air. Google Zubas. It's like Zubas, I think? Yes. Right. And all people working out would wear these. So wrestlers wore them all the time. They're like crazy patterns and colors.
These are beautiful. I love it. And
amazing.
I would sponsor your vision.
Bane and Zubas, people. We need...
The American flag.
He's a wrestler.
Yeah, get him in the Zubas, and then get a bum bag on top of that. That's where he keeps his venom, is in the little bag that he wears in the front.
There you go. It's perfect.
No.
They're beautiful. They're like the best. When I was a kid, I would have worn these. I don't know why I didn't wear these. I don't think they made them in kid sizes.
Actually, speaking though of bags, as Alfred and Barbara are embracing, you can hear in the background her saying, "I have something in my bag for you." I was like, I'm dying to know what the hell that was. Like, It's gonna be. It probably would be like, oh, it's lemon Snickerson's biscuits all the way from Oxbridge or something like something very, very English they'd have to throw in.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like,
Everton toffees. There you go.
Yeah, it's like what gift can she get the guy who lives in a mansion with a millionaire? Like, it's like literally, it will have to be something. Well, something from the proletariat because obviously Alfred doesn't go down there anymore.
Yeah. What if it's like English crisps? She brings him. I've got your box of Monster Munch.
Yeah, it'll be something along those. Like when
you're both wrong. It's a kettle. Americans don't have kettles. It's just a kettle.
That's true. Why they've got those stupid stovetop ones?
Yep.
What's that all about? Americans
it takes
get
way
kettles.
too long as well. It's just like, well, you're adding like another 10 minutes to boil the damn water. What are you doing?
Oh, but in the minute, right, we cut to the grounds of the manor, and Alfred is explaining their family connection, which is, it's a lot to take in. So Barbara's parents died in a car accident 5 years ago, and Alfred's been supporting her ever since.
And
now,
to which Bruce says, "You have?" Like he
doesn't
didn't know about this. Yeah.
Now, I had a question here.
Greatest detective ever.
Well, actually, that's an excellent point. Yeah, what the hell? He's supposed to know everything.
Just simple, what the hell? Absolutely.
So, Alfred never brought this up, which is bizarre. But so do you think he's one of those people who he doesn't talk about himself? Like, he's with Bruce all day, every day, but Bruce doesn't really know him, which is kind of sad.
It kind of reminded me, like, if you ever had, you have friends who have friends that they don't really let you see. Like, they try to keep their friends group separate. Like, one of my friends, Dave, he has this guy who we all know, we've all met, and he's a lovely fellow. But yeah, he always meets up with them separately, and they always go on little jaunts together. And then the rest of us are just like, why can't we go? Like, what? So it feels like he's like, no, he's one friend over here, and you were the other friends over here. It reminded me of that, where it's just like, Alfred's like, I have my own private life, sir. I'm keeping your secrets. I'm entitled to my own, you know.
Well, that's pretty much what he says a little bit later on about his own sickness. He just says, a gentleman doesn't speak of his own ails, or something like that.
Yeah.
So it must be kind of like keeping his work life separate, because as chummy as they are, it is a job. If he wasn't paid, would he stay?
I think he would. I think they're almost like a family. But I think there's the added layer of Alfred being a very traditional, old school British man. He's got his
absolutely.
Yeah. Like, oh no, I don't want to bother Bruce with this. It's too much. It's too much for him. He's got a lot on his plate.
I think it's one of those things, though. Reading what he's saying, though, like in keeping with the idea that Betty Kane and Kathy Kane were brought in to deter ideas that there might have been like a homosexual relationship going on in Wayne Manor. Like everything what Alfred's saying here, though, kind of adds into it more. Everything, secrets are a virtual prerequisite in this house. It just kind of makes it seem like, oh yeah, like I've got my private life, man. Like you.
Well, that's what the Pennyworth show's all about. There you go.
I've been dying. I have to start that. So I'm definitely going to watch that throughout this season to keep up.
We're going to have to cover it on the show, on the Patreon, right?
Yeah, we'll have to do something with it at least. But yeah, the weird thing is, though, this is a change. They've refined this down. This is actually, and speaking of, as you were earlier, John, deleted scenes to put into a director's cut. There's only one shot deleted scene of Batman and Robin that I can find. And it is, it came prior to this scene. It's featured in, the drafts and the novelizations and stuff, where it weirdly specifies that Barbara isn't Alfred's niece. She is Margaret Clark's girl. And Margaret Clark was an ex-girlfriend of Alfred. Which is needlessly convoluted.
Ooh, so child out of wedlock.
That's the thing. You almost are like, is it hinting that she's his daughter? Or
look, the age different enough kind of made me go, hang on, how does the biology work here? If she's young enough to be his granddaughter,
at least.
It could be that she's like, oh no, I'm like 48 years old. Like,
well, I look like a child, but I'm 48.
As we all know, this series has a complicated relationship with time and place. When is it set? How old are people? None of it makes any sense.
Because everything about this, though, because within that dialogue, though, in that deleted bit, it has Alfred just says to Bruce, like, oh, she's Margaret Clark's girl. And then Bruce is like, oh, Alfred still keeps a picture of your mother by his bed. Which is like, whoa, what?
Yeah, you do not tell her that.
And then Bruce is the way he instantly knows who Margaret Clark is. It's kind of like, oh yeah, me and Alfred talk about Margaret Clark all the time.
I know
like,
all the stories.
So, I mean, the stuff he got up to with your mother, let me tell you, it's things you don't want to know. There's a reason to call her Peg, you know. Let me tell you.
I really do like that you point out this idea that Gotham and the timelessness of it, because it doesn't seem to matter. Well, except for the, Christian Bale, Christopher Nolan films. When you go to like the Gotham, the TV show, and you're looking at these films from the Tim Burton original films and this weird timeline where it's like this noir 40s revolvers, fedoras, and then you have TVs or you have mobile phones in like more the Gotham television series. It's such an odd world with these weird kind of times.
Very weird. And you get it here as well, because Barbara says she is going to Oxbridge Academy. It's not real, listeners. Taking computer science. So computers are like a big thing, which is very much of the 90s.
Of course, Barbara Gordon being master of the cyber realms, as you referred to as a couple of times.
she is. I mean, she's pretty much tech support for all DC superheroes when she becomes Oracle.
Yeah,
which I think is why they're bringing her in. It seems to be like, well, he's got to retire, but we don't want to recast Alfred. So what are we going to do going forward, assuming they're going to be making more movies after this? Like, well, we need a replacement. But we need somebody back at the cave doing tech stuff. She can be a bit more active as well. Yeah,
that way, though, you'd almost want it to be like a Batman Beyond scenario, though, where maybe she comes in and then it's her and Dick becomes Nightwing, she becomes Batgirl, and then Bruce is the guy in the chair doing the tech support. But that's, I don't think at the time, the mid-90s, they would have been like, no, that's unthinkable. Like,
no.
So.
But, I think they were only really looking at trying to sell toys. Like, you watch this thing, apart from being like a Power Rangers, mega funded project, it's just toys. I'm watching, I swear I had like 50% of the toys that came out from it.
Yeah. Well, one also thing I should mention as well, and I'm wondering if this is part of the reason why they cut out the whole, like, she's not actually Alfred's niece angle, is in the draft script, it's emphasized that she comes from England. And so when she goes like, oh, I'm on break from, and Bruce goes like, Oxbridge Academy, she's like, oh, how did you know? He's like, I recognize the accent. And then in the novelization, they add to it where she's like, what do you mean? And he's like, I can see by the patch on your sweater. Like, he was joking around, which I actually like, because it's, it's a little bit of an embellishment. But I think it was originally supposed to be that she was English. And then I don't know if it's Alicia Silverstone that cast her, and it's just like, yeah, she can't do the English accent. We don't want her to do the English accent, or it's just like, it's a mess. Like, you've got a convoluted, she's the daughter of his ex-girlfriend from 60 years ago or something.
Who he still pines over.
Yeah, and then she's going to like an English university, but she's American. It's like, just simplify that. His niece, she is American. She lives in England.
Yeah, which is fine. Like, that's understandable. That makes perfect sense. But like, the fact she's amazed that in the finished movie that Bruce knows she goes to Oxbridge Academy is baffling to me, because she is literally wearing the uniform with the badge on.
Who travels in their uniform?
Yeah. I know. As a school kid, like, the first thing you want to do is get out of that goddamn thing.
At least undo the tie a little. But she's like, no, I am. This is part of her. You could say, though, because as we get into things throughout the rest of the minutes, she is lying. Like, about stuff. So it could be like, this is her costume. This is her like an early rendition of the bat suit. This is, I guess, I have putting on my adornments to make you believe that I am this kind of person. But
because she comes across a bit like, she's nice and sweet and a bit nerdy, and you could imagine she's the prefect at school.
I love how, like, she turns around when she discloses to Dick that Alfred is unwell, and I think this is later on in the film. But just this whole, like, she's actually quite well written. I think she's got a really good punch into everything that she says when she's standing up for Alfred and what she thinks is right. And she's the type of person I'd imagine who would be not on the I don't know, prefect lineup, but someone who'd be tearing into the prefects and be saying, like, climate change is real. What are you guys doing about it?
Yeah, that's the real her. Where she's presenting this little image to Alfred and whatnot, isn't she? Like,
she'd be on the wearing a beret and getting out the placards when she's on student protests and stuff.
Yeah. So you're right. This is her costume to look like nice and timid and things, but she's not really. She's badass.
The thing is, Alicia Silverstone, I do like her as an actress in general, but some scenes in this she's not great. And there's even a very noticeable. You could have done another take of this where she's like, she says, "I'm on break from," and then she turns around and there's a momentary pause as if she's waiting for George Clooney to be like, Oxbridge Academy. It just seems like the timing wasn't right. Yeah. Like it's just a bit awkward and clumsy. And it's like, just do it again. But again, everything about this movie is rushed. So it feels like, that's fine. Yeah, go ahead. That's totally, no one will notice any difference.
Now, they had such a small budget, they couldn't reshoot scenes.
But in fairness, I mean, like, there are so many big names in this movie, and I don't think anyone really did amazing. Because I realized it was just for kids. It's just to make money. They've already got an audience. Why push?
Why bother?
Why bother? Exactly.
But I did look up some stuff here just to briefly explain to foreign listeners who might not know. You've probably heard of Oxford. You've probably heard of Cambridge. You might be like, what the hell's Oxbridge? Yeah, it's not a thing. They use that term to refer to those two. They call them Oxbridge as a unit just because they are the top tier.
Yeah.
Like, what do Americans have? They've got like a top tier thing for their
Harvard and Yale. Yeah.
No, but there's like a collective name for them.
The Ivy League.
That's it.
That's it.
Is that why she's holding that? She's holding a leaf. I thought it was a bit weird. It's like, I wonder if that is an ivy leaf. And she's just like, poison ivy. And
sometimes
also she's from the Ivy League.
It's just a cigar. She might just be carrying it and just be like, oh, it's a pretty leaf.
No,
Brittany,
everything
on
means
this
something.
show, everything means something. Okay. We haven't to go through it minute by minute. This is our life.
No, I'm with you now. I'm with you. I think it's a nod. So the Americans know what the school is, and it's to call to Ivy. Yes. But yeah, and so in this, they've made a fictional university, Oxbridge. But the Oxford and Cambridge, they're the oldest, wealthiest, most famous unis here. And as of 2018, that was the most up-to-date stat I had here, less than 1% of individuals applying to undergraduate courses were admitted.
Yeah.
That's how prestigious it is. Yeah, we know someone who went there, and they're not rich or posh, which is weird.
I know someone who I would consider to be like the most intelligent person I know, and she was rejected from Oxford. So, and they had to slum it at University of Liverpool with the rest of us.
It's crazy. I don't know how you get in.
You've got to know people properly.
Yeah, because usually it's wealthy people or incredibly smart people. So Oxbridge is like a term just to sort of say the superior, the elites go.
Of course, the Crane brothers from Frasier, Niles and Frasier Crane, both attended Oxford and Cambridge.
Yeah, that makes
That's
perfect
a good little
sense.
trivia.
Yeah, I remember distinctly there's an episode where someone refers to Frasier as like, it's like a big mouth with a Cambridge degree. And he's just like, oh, yes, with my Cambridge degree and Oxford. And so he makes a little point of like digging it in there as well.
He's been to both.
Oh, yeah. He was Oxbridge. He was
He's Oxbridge.
He's part of Alfred's alma mater.
So what you're saying is Kelsey Grammer should be in this film.
Kelsey Grammer just showed up at Wayne Manor. Just for like, yes, Alfred, it's me.
It could be his brother or something. It could be the new Alfred. Get Kelsey Grammer as Alfred.
Yeah, actually, 100%. Who, if not him, then who? Andy Serkis, I guess, because that's who they got at the minute. But
I'm more about Kelsey Grammer. Let's get it. Let's get it happening, people.
Or, quite frankly, keep freaking Jeremy Irons on, because he was doing great. But tragically, I think we've seen the last of Irons Alfred.
Yeah, he was one of the only good things in there for me. But the only other stat I had was Oxford. There is evidence. I don't know what the evidence is. I couldn't find it. But there is evidence of teaching there as early as 1096. So it's been going that bloody long.
That's when someone showed someone how to open the gate properly. And they're like, that's the first example of something been taught in this whole area.
I think that would be longer than the first ships coming out to Australia.
It will be, won't it, actually? Yeah, I think that's insane.
That's nuts.
Because we always learn about, over here, 1066, where there's a famous battle, a king is slain. So we always learn about this time. So that's not much after. That's crazy. That's like that's medieval knights having a battle and someone gets stabbed in the eye with an arrow and all kinds of stuff.
It's now it is like, where am I firing the arrow? Over there. This is the first example of something been taught in the Oxford area.
Yes. Well, that battle
this is the era of the knights who say knee almost.
That battle is commemorated in a famous tapestry. So maybe that was the teaching, was we're going to teach you how to do this.
I love how the Oxbridge crest had the knights who said knee. We're just on it.
Yeah.
You zoom into that crest.
The Dark Knights who say knee.
And that's why. Oh, there you go.
That's a T-shirt right there, Niall. Get making that.
That's why Alicia Silverstone's holding the leaf. She's like, oh, it's a part of a shrubbery, though.
Let's bring it to the Dark Knights who see me.
Yes. Oh my God, it's perfect.
Oh.
We've improved this movie. I mean, that doesn't take a lot of effort, but still. And I love the movie. People know I love it.
But I'm noted out for minute 31. Does anyone have anything else that they want to bring up or anything? Or?
No, I'm noted out.
Yeah, shall we move on to the next one?
Yes, we will. Barbara spots something and gasps. We don't know what it is. We're going to have to wait till Wednesday, people. So we will head off into the dark, dark night once again. We head off into the dark night a lot. I think we should just stay in the dark night instead of heading off there every single time.
You got a vitamin D deficiency that way, though. So
that's true. We might have to take some supplements. So we're going to go to the shop. We're going to get some supplements. We'll meet you again on Wednesday. But first of all, would our illustrious guest like to tell people where they can be found online or promote any upcoming work you have? I don't know when this is coming out.
Well, fantastic. If you want to catch up on some of the previous stuff that I have made, you can go to youtube.com/BrittGirl to see all my fun and fabulous videos. I've got some video essays as well where I break down things like death of the author, as well as the idea of why Batman doesn't kill Joker. Kind of dive into Batman's psyche a little bit there. Yeah,
that's always
good. Have a look at all the socials. You'll find me.
So check that out and join us again on Wednesday for more Bat, Minute and Robin.
Next time, going hog wild. A preppy imposter's facade suddenly flips as she spies a speedster that can totally rip. But as her new peculiar upper-class pal offers her a place at Castle Clandestine, which reserved valet has reservations about taking reservations at this time? We're ready to tuck into the next minute on Wednesday, folks. So sleep tight and don't let the bat mites bite. Same bat pod, different bat minute.
We'll be back.